guys. Today we're going to be learning about some fundamentals of country guitar. And when I say country, I don't mean pop country, I mean kind of more classic country. Kind of the twangy, older style stuff that you might envision in your mind, a Johnny Cash or Brad Paisley even though he's more of a modern guy, he still kind of touches more towards that real kind of country sound. So the first thing I want to mention is tone. Guitar tone when it comes to country music is usually very sparkly and clean. Or when you might have a solo or a lead or something, it might be slightly overdriven, but it's never really heavy. The guitars are never really heavy. A characteristic to the tone of the guitar that you might hear frequently is a very compressed kind of signal, almost what we would consider or call the guitar playing to sound a little bit squashed. That comes from a compressor. If you know anything about compression, it just basically limits your signal so that way you can't reach a certain level of clipping, so it won't break up. So that's very indicative of the country sound. Right now, I'm not plugged straight into the computer, so you can't hear super well, but you can get a feel for it. My signal right now is very kind of squashed. Another thing that's going to contribute to a part of the tone of country music is some slight reverb. We don't really need to talk too much about it. Reverb is just sound trailing off from the initial attack, almost like you're in a hall. Furthermore, we do use a little bit of delay, and we hear that somewhat frequently in country, and it's not long worship style delay with a lot of feedback and attack to your sound. It's short, and we call that a slapback because it's literally like a sound is slapping right back at you. So if you're like kind of you think about being, I'll just play it for you. So this is no delay. This is that slapback sound. It slaps right back. Short decay, doesn't last very long, and it doesn't. The attack of the signal of the is just about the same or slightly lower than the original signal. So those are some characteristics of the tone. Things about how to play, technique. Let's talk about the picking. A lot of times we use the hybrid technique. This is where that spider exercise will come in handy. Handy. It's unintentional, but it's pretty good. Yeah. Feel free to use that in mixed company. That's a good joke. What we do with the hybrid picking is we use, we adapt a style called chicken picking. And the idea is that you are supposed to kind of emulate what a chicken might sound when he's kind of clucking. You kind of get this clucking sound. And what you do is you kind of add a kind of like slap to your sound. So chicken picking, I'll play it, you'll recognize it. You'll have like a... And that note in between there is a ghost note on that B string. That's kind of indicative of the style. You hear that real short staccato sound. That's chicken picking, and that's with the right hand. And many times, people will use actually fake acrylic nails to kind of really get that punchy, bitey sound with it. But you don't have to grow your nails. You don't have to buy acrylic nails. You can get the same idea with just your fingers. So hybrid picking, chicken picking. Further from that, Travis picking, a style invented by a guitar player called Merle Travis back in 40s, 50s. You can look him up. I would recommend it. He's pretty impressive. He basically, the sound is a walking bass. Not a walking, but a moving between a 1 and the 5. Kind of following the bass, the kind of upright bass that kind of like you've heard before, and then incorporating a chord melody within that. And of course, I'm going to have to use some hybrid picking here. My pick in my fingers. I'll try and let you see it. What I'm going to do is on each beat, it's kind of the 4 on the floor feel. That 1, 5 kind of connects. I'll have a C7 chord. Kind of that walking sound. So what happens when I turn on a little bit of slapback, I'll get this kind of more recognizable sound. Try that again. So you kind of get the idea there. You're constantly walking that bass. Kind of following along with what the bass player were doing. And you notice that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just kind of walking along. And that's again indicative of that style, that country style. Let's see, I have a little list here just so I don't forget anything for you guys. Oh, and finally, how could I forget? The pedal steel bends. We've all heard pedal steel, whether you know it or not. When I play it, it will sound familiar. You'll recognize it. The idea here being guitar making up for that. A lot of times in more modern band settings, we don't always have room for a pedal steel. But regardless, it's an effect that we can kind of create and a kind of a lick that we can kind of do. There's many ways to approach it. I'll give you the most practical one right out of the pentatonic scale. Imagine we're at an A minor pentatonic. So what we're going to have here is our ring finger on the 7th fret G string, and the pinky finger is going to be on the 8th fret B string. What we're going to do is bend this ring finger, the G string, all the way up a whole step, while constantly having this 8th fret B string engaged. So together it would be, we're going to let them ring out together. Now the trick is not to let the B string bend as you bend the ring finger. So you can hear that kind of classic country sound. Now, even better is to add the high E string in as well on the 8th fret. So you have the 8th fret on the B and the high E string, and they're going to ring out while we bend a whole step from that D note, 7th fret G string. Very nice. Pedal steel bend, and you can see even in that, if you can use chicken picking in with that. One other thing that I wanted to mention was some double stops. Now, double stops are just using 2 notes at once, kind of. You'll see. So in worship, a lot of time you see people playing the root. If we're in G, for example, the root and the 3rd of a chord. Now the root would be on the E string, and the 3rd would be on the G string. Minor, minor, major. See that a lot. Now in country, kind of a style, something you might be used to hearing is. And what you're doing is you're basically doing the reverse. Instead of playing on the low E string and the G string, you're going to play on the high E string and the B string. And the G string. So you can have that. Let them ring. And here, you'll notice that I'm using hybrid picking again. Now you can do it with just pick, but you can kind of get that cluck again with the fingers. So that's kind of the idea. A lot of fundamentals of country. This video is 9 minutes long somehow now at this point, so I apologize for the length. People to know, good country players. Here's your moment to get pencil and paper out. Oh, wait. Good. Now that we've all got our pencil and paper out, I'm going to write down some of these names for you. Albert Lee. Very, very fast country player. Very clean country player. He uses very little effects or overdrives. He just plays clean, and he's a monster. Danny Gatton, Johnny Hyland. The guys are masters of the telly. Called Johnny Hyland, the master of the telly. James Burton played with Elvis and a lot of very early influential country, western, swing, and rock music. Vince Gill. Vince Gill is more of a modern guy, 80s, 90s, and today. Great player, great songwriter. And if you've heard the How Great Thou Art with Carrie Underwood, he was the one playing guitar and singing as well with her. So maybe that's a reference you would know. Brad Paisley, a name that you all know. More of a modern guy, but a monster. Just listening to him, get a lot of great country licks out of him. Chet Atkins, a classic country player, really great. And Brent Mason, he's a more modern guy, a studio guy, but nonetheless, he's a monster. They incorporate all these kind of techniques and ideas as they go. Just two final thoughts on technique and what to listen for when playing country. You'll hear a lot of open strings being played towards the lower end of the neck, and a lot of times they're just picked. So if you're that's just using a flat pick instead of using hybrid picking. So you'll hear that a lot. So open strings and flat picking as well. So maybe a good example, if I can do it. Hopefully I don't ruin it for you guys. Song we did last year kind of had a solo like a. So in that you see like the country pedal steel bend. And then you're chicken picking with those ghost notes. Open strings. So that's country music. Good luck. I hope you have fun. Enjoy the songs. We will be working on this in our lessons. Looking forward to seeing some of you later today.